Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. It's Mishmash Monday. I hope you had a nice weekend. It was a little bit chilly here in the Northeast this weekend. My girlfriend had snow up in Connecticut on Saturday. Can you imagine? It's already, it's into May already and we're getting snow still. That's pretty amazing. But, it's passing and pretty soon everything will be popping because the weather will warm up all of a sudden and then we'll get hot probably right away. But a couple things to do today, couple interesting things I think. First of all, let me show you this cool new knife I got.
This was an impulse buy. I picked this up the other day. Isn't that a great looking? I love stuff that has the flag or the patriotic colors built in. I get a kick out of it. I always did. And I just like, but the funny thing about this knife, look, it's a little keychain knife. It's a little small knife, but look at it. It is, embossed. It's raised. All this is raised up and nice. And it's a liner lock, which means you push the liner over like this to close it. And you can open it with one hand, just like this. But again, it's a small little knife, so you have to, grip it open like this, and then, it's only made, it's kind of a novelty. And you could use it like this, or you could use it like this if you had, it's good for cutting paper and stuff. But these little knives do come in somewhat handy sometimes if you only have this. But believe it or not, this is still illegal in New York City. Still illegal in New York City, even though the length of the knife is less than one of your fingers. New York City law would say this is still illegal to own, to possess, because, of course, this is a 90.
Okay, next up we have a nice little project coming from a good friend of mine, Gerry Stover. He's over in Washington, the state of Washington. Him and his grandson, Jace, they do a lot of projects. You might remember him from the Birdhouse Challenge. And Gerry he was a former Marine and the same kind of unit, the state platoon that I was in. And he sent over some stuff that let's check.
Now, Gerry does a lot of volunteer work with Jace's troop, with the PAC 236 over there in Washington. So he sent me this nice, it's a long sleeve. This is like a t-shirt weight, and this is fantastic. These things always, the long sleeve t-shirts really come in handy. He also sent in this beautiful Marine Corps flag that I can't wait to get to my barn somewhere to hang it up. And then look at this nice, this Semper Fi Marine Corps shirt, always faithful. Love this stuff. But what he sent in really that we were both excited about was this right here. Okay, now this is the beautiful item that Gerry sent me. Now, this was given to him. I believe his gunnery sergeant carried this for many years before Gerry got a hold of it, and I lost the email that story was in, so Gerry will let us know again. But this is a U.S. Army Signal Corps Lineman Toolkit. Okay, this was issued to all different branches of the service. This was especially the unit that we were in, especially any time of communications officer, anything like that. And what it consisted of was, this was called the TE-33. That was the whole unit here. Now, it consisted of the CS-34, which is the pouch. This is the leather pouch that it consisted of. And then inside the pouch, when you opened it up, it consisted of a TL-29 pocket knife, which is up top here. And now this one here, Gerry just put in because he didn't have the original that came with it. And it was like an electrician's knife. This one needs a little work, but I brought one up from my collection upstairs. This is more what it would have looked like. Although it would have had stamped in the side, it would have had TL-29 stamped. And it was a basic electrician's knife, which had a single blade like this, a cutting blade. And then it also had a screwdriver / scraper, which was used, and that was it. It was a two-bladed knife, and this was used, and it also had a liner lock, this little brass liner lock for the scraper screwdriver. It was a very good knife, and a lot of these had legs on them. They would walk because they were so nice. Lastly, it also consisted of a TL-13A pliers. And this is the original pliers that it would have. You can see it was like a smaller lineman's pliers. So you can see here, these do close all the way. And they do have a little hole here. A lot of lineman's tools had holes because you would want to have a lanyard on them so you wouldn't drop it on the person down holding a ladder. Now, you can see this is in some, it's rough, right? It's got some cracks in the leather here, but we're going to try and fix this up. Normally they came in a brown, a kind of a nice brown color. This is beyond getting into a brown, but we can possibly make it black. You know, and what I'm going to do is we're going to try and strip off some of this. You know, over the years it gets coatings. We're going to strip it off, and we're going to try and fill these cracks in. I'll show you. Now, typically in any kind of military service, when you would get something that this was considered unserviceable, and what you would do is you would bring it into the quartermaster and you'd say, I need another CS34 pouch, you know, and he would look it over and he'd say, okay, this is unserviceable. He'd toss it, you fill out a form, and you get a brand new one. That's what you did. You know, nobody ever fixed these. But here's the problem. You can see here, you see how this is pulling out here like that. That's, you know, which is common. That happened a lot. And you see the cracks and things from, you know, they get dried out. Once these things were submerged in water, they would get, you know, everything would start to happen. And they were always, you know, always getting wet and stuff. And you can see here, this one has a lettering on it, and it says the Bolin Leather Products Incorporated. I don't know if you could see that. And then it has a military spec number, and then it says Lineman's Pliers underneath. And so what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and fix this. And how we're going to do it is we're going to take some kind of mesh. We're going to try and epoxy the mesh to the back, and then fill in this here using CA and baking soda. And again, this is just to get it to be a still serviceable, somewhat usable for a little while, and we'll see what we can do. This is why I don't throw stuff away. If I have a belt that's too long and I cut a piece off, I don't throw it away. I know that someday I might be able to use this small piece as a hinge or something. Well, here was another piece of some kind of mesh or something that was super heavy duty, and I said, wow, I hate to throw that away, so this is perfect. I'm going to cut a piece of this and use it as a backing for the holes here, and we'll just use that with epoxy. And now, whenever you're going to do any kind of patching, is always make it a little bit oversized. You can always trim it down, but you see here now, instead of trying to put a little patch here and a little patch here, when that pliers is going in and out, you don't want to, it's the seams that's going to bother you. So we take a long patch like this, and we're gonna, I'm just dry fitting it here, and we're going to see how by sticking this into the hole here, we could see it does a nice job in getting behind this area, getting behind this whole area here, and then we'll go, and then here you can always trim off after it dries. But we want this to kind of curve this way because we don't want the pliers pushing it down. See, so that's actually a good size. Now we're going to have to mix the slow set epoxy, put it all in here, get it into the mesh, and then squeeze this in there, and then put something behind it with wax paper or something that won't stick to hold it tight and hard against the inside of here. And we're going to wipe this down with alcohol to make sure there's nothing in there, but we'll wipe it down with alcohol. Alcohol will help it absorb. Okay, here's where we're coming so far. You see we got that all epoxied in there, and you see how it gave a nice base to it. Added a little epoxy here because that was all missing. Same with here. You could see here now that creates a, you know, an area that this will last. And we're going to dye this all black, okay, and take care of the clips here. Now we looked at the pliers, and you could see, remember I said there's the TL13A designation for the official pliers here. These pliers were made by Perry in Italy, and which wasn't uncommon for military. You know, every one of these components of this kit would be made throughout the world, wherever they would get the, you know, best bid. Now you can see here we have a lot of pitting all over the pliers, you know, pitting on top here, pitting on the edges, pitting on the face. The handles look like they've, you know, seen some wear and tear. So you know, obviously this wouldn't be considered a pristine pair, so I could do what I want with them, and that's just what I'm going to do. So let me clean them. Okay, now everything has been degreased, cleaned, repaired. Everything's ready to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to dye it, and we're going to use leather dye. Now, if you've never used this before, if ever you were going to use gloves, this is what you use it for, because if you get this on your skin, it'll be there for a week. And so now we're going to dye this, and then we're going to polish it with shoe polish. Now the dye is an alcohol base and it will dry fairly fast, a couple hours. What you'll do, you'll see it has kind of a dull sheen to it. You see there, that's the dye. You take and you buff it out. You'll do this like this and you'll buff it. And what happens is it'll bring out the, you see that? And that's just dye. Now we're going to go over this with a shoe polish and then you'll be finished. But that's what you want. That's to dye. You're supposed to dye your shoes actually and your leather gear every so often, but now we'll do this whole thing, buff the whole thing out, and then polish. Now, by the way, all shoe polish basically is, shoe polish is all a basic polish that has colors added to it. Now, in this case, here's your two neutrals. This is two different brands. This is Lincoln. Lincoln was what we were basically issued in the Marine Corps. And then you have a different, this is Kiwi, but this one here is the Parade Gloss. This one is very easy to go on, and these are a little bit more difficult to work, but they do have a more durable shine. I have not tried the Angelus yet. That's supposed to be good, but you can see here, these are neutral. Then you have your blacks down here, and then you have your brown. But they can come in, shoe polish can come in any color, maroon, beige, green. So it all depends on what stain you add to the polish. We use the Lincoln today.
Now you know my favorite part. Remember what this Lineman Toolkit looked like before we started.
And we are calling this project done. I just wanted to get this back to looking and operating in good condition. Now you can see here, we polished out the case. The case all works. Everything, the snaps all work great now. This pliers here, did this. These are beautiful. You can see they still keep the lettering. It still says Perry, and it still says the TL13A. Now, which is interesting about the pliers, and you can see here, did them all up really nice. Over here, I had a, you know, to leave the lettering in. I couldn't get it as nice as I did on this side, but did the handles and everything. It's just beautiful. But if you notice here, you see these two notches here. Those are wire strippers. Those are actually part of the specifications for the military pliers, which I found pretty interesting. I didn't know that. Secondly, up here, you know, the knife would go in here. You know, this was the normal spot for the electrician's knife. Now, this would be marked TL29. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have the marking, so it wouldn't be part of an original. You know, that's what you look for when you look for originality. But as far as the case goes, I really... you know, I was able to bring it back that it's all usable. I mean, now, even though you could see here, there's a little bumps here that you have from the epoxy, but it is solid. There's dyed everything in here, so it's all completely solid, completely usable. So there's nothing that you would have to worry about it falling apart or anything in the field. And the snaps all work nice. The snaps are all waxed and everything, so they snap on really nice. And I left them brass. I think it looks nice against the black. And I think, Gerry, I think you get a kick out of this. You know, that bringing this back to the way it was. I mean, this was carried for so many years, and now it's back in service. So
in closing, Gerry and Jace, thanks so much for sending that over here. I still have that other tool. We'll be getting to that shortly, but want to say thanks again, and thank all of you for watching. I hope you have a nice day. Take care now. Bye-bye.